Hello and welcome back to Plane Time 24. I'm Ben Coleman, your host, and this is segment 2 here on the 21st of December from Oviedo. And this is the Gizmo Production USA set that we have here, the Florida Aviation Network. And we're going to continue on with Bob Jex. And Bob has more exciting information to share with us about what's available to you out there in the field, that being a retired FAA Fast Team manager to now a Fast Team rep. And he's available anytime, all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bob will answer his phone, maybe. So leave a message at least. If he's not able to answer, he will get back to you. Bob, I didn't just expose you, did I?
I don't know. I'm still fully clothed, Ben, so I think we're still okay. The audience isn't ready for anything else.
Welcome back to number 2.
Thank you,
Segment
Ben.
2. All right, let's hit it.
All right. It's an honor to be on set, as always. I'm very, very pleased and excited to continue this wonderful presentation of the periodic topics of the General Aviation Joint Safety Committee. I wanted to talk in this second segment about the airworthiness topics of the quarter. In the first segment, we introduced
That's dear to my heart. That's
Yeah,
dear to my heart.
I know. I've got your seatbelt. I'm going to tighten it down a little bit more.
Hold me
Watch
back.
for the oxygen to drop in from the overhead.
Hold me back.
The General Aviation Joint Safety Committee outlines a number of accident prevention topics for a year's worth of activity. In the federal government, the fiscal year runs from October 1st through September 30th of the next year. So we're just about complete with the first quarter. We divide the fiscal year into quarters. October through December is the first quarter. These are the suggested topics from an airworthiness point of view that help, we think, will help prevent accidents from happening. How do you measure an accident that never happens? Don't know. One thing you can watch is a dropping trend in statistics, and I have some really good news on that later in the program. So we think that this program is effective. It certainly is popular, and the volunteers who support the FAA and the FAST team can easily get involved in these projects, and we have some pointers for them later on as to how they can better perform this mission. It's wonderful to do that. I'm so honored and so pleased to be back here with you on set today.
Good.
All right. Well, as we mentioned in the first segment, topics of the month, that has an operational slant to it. We now shift our focus to the airworthiness topics of the quarter. They are typically featured in approved media that comes out from the FAA. They're made by National Fast Team. I like to call them Big Fast Team. They come out with media that they develop throughout the year. We sometimes wonder what they're doing, but now we know because they put out a pretty good product. They are suggested topics for the volunteers to come into something of meaningful value to their audiences. If you're a planner and you're wondering, what do I present this month? You have a wonderful choice from these topics of the month and the topics of the quarter. I want to get right into it. We're just about ready to put a bow on the first quarter, because December is almost over and we're wrapping up the first quarter of fiscal 25. However, a really relevant topic leads us off for the airworthiness topics of the quarter, and that is Advanced Air Mobility, or AAM. This is an offshoot of the drone industry and has led to the development, the creation of an entirely new category of aircraft, somewhere between airplanes, somewhere between helicopters, somewhere between powered lift. You now find the brand new aircraft category of Advanced Air Mobility, or AAM. What we need is mechanics and technicians who understand these aircraft and who know how to work on them. An amazingly vibrant industry just got a whole lot more vibrant with the advent of the Advanced Air Mobility class. I sometimes wonder if this is what people are seeing up in New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania with all these drone sightings you've been hearing about recently. I wonder if there's AAM aircraft undergoing flight testing. It may very well be, I don't know. But advanced air mobility is a new way of flying. Imagine the George Jetson scooter, whatever that jetmobile that he had. That day, you young people, you're going to see it in your lifetime. I'm very excited to see this happening. The city of Orlando is already starting to develop and deploy the infrastructure that will support advanced air mobility aircraft, to the point where they might even have the TSA checkpoints at the remote locations where the AAMs will be flying from, perhaps out at Lake Nona in Orlando. And you'll fly in on an advanced air mobility aircraft to the Orlando airport. You'll get off and you won't even have to go through TSA screening because you've already been through it. You'll just go right out to your gate. I mean, I'm very excited by some of the promises of the advanced air mobility industry. And we're going to need people to work on these aircraft. Obviously, we're going to need people to fly them, but we're going to need people to work on them to keep them flying. It's very exciting what's happening in advanced air mobility.
And Bob, folks sometimes don't realize that even all of the Reaper and our drones, a lot of maintenance goes on, and there are airworthiness requirements and standards. They have to have an annual inspection, just
Absolutely.
like any other aircraft.
Absolutely.
May not be a pilot on board, but they still have maintenance requirements. And it's sometimes a little easier, sometimes a little harder. You don't have anybody to give you actual physical feedback from what's it doing. So you got to look at what's it doing by either the computer printout or physical observations of, looks like that aircraft's kind of rolling to the left a little bit. So we need to get into it. And it's the maintenance industry is just, it's ripe right now for those who have an interest in good eye-hand coordination and mechanical ability. If you don't have it, we'll help you develop it. If you still don't have it, we can't turn you into a mechanic unless you want to be a mechanic or a technician. But
it's so dynamic. There
Yeah.
are so many changes taking place right now. We've both seen the advent of new systems, the pushing aside the retirement of older systems to make way for the new ones. Now we have many systems that are automated. They operate themselves. When they're malfunctioning or operating in an abnormal condition, they're able to download a code that they can send electronically ahead to the maintenance base that's able to work on them. And by the time an aircraft lands, the crews on the ground know what the part is that the aircraft is going to need. They're already coming out to the aircraft with the replacement parts and the technicians that know how to install them. We need to make that really good development even better in the future.
ACARS has worked out great, and it can only get better at this point. And you know, folks don't always appreciate maintenance until they're in severe need of it. We have a gentleman I'm looking at right now, Diego Alfonso, that had really did not really appreciate maybe the running of an engine until his didn't one day. And now he appreciates it, I think, a lot more. And he's an advocate for dead stick landing. But anyway, I digress a little bit. But and ACARS.
It's a digital reporting system that goes up through satellite communications networks.
Automated?
Oh, thank you. Automated communication and addressing reporting system, something like that.
I was just going to throw out
yeah.
an acronym and force you to look up, because you know we're all about acronyms in aviation and government in general. But we'll throw out some more acronyms that we don't have the embarrassing input from our crew. I want you to look it up. When
One
ACARS,
of the things I like about a safety culture is that there is a wonderful crew that surrounds people within a safety culture. And if an individual doesn't have the answer, many times the group will. And almost always an answer can be researched and referenced in FARs and advisory circulars.
We're full of them.
We're full of it, Ben. That is for sure.
All right, I derailed you. Go ahead.
We have our next quarter coming up. That is the January through March quarter, known as the second quarter of the fiscal year. This quarter will be dedicated to parts approval, the obtaining of FAA parts approval so that we know that we don't have unapproved parts going into the aircraft. If you've got a broken bolt on your engine, You can't just run down to Home Depot and purchase a replacement bolt. That has to be approved parts that meet certain standards for manufacturing, endurance, and wear. And those parts are identified. They're put through a certain supply system that Home Depot could only dream of, and that they have to be the correct parts that go on to an aircraft. Benji, you probably forget more about this than I'll ever know, but what we're trying to do is reach out to the aviation maintenance community, and we of course invite the pilot community to join in on these presentations as well. They're all put on by the volunteers, and that's our suggested topic of the quarter for January through March.
And Bob, I stand to correct you here. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware to get that bolt. You can do that. It's just not legal. And not only that, it's not smart. And if you don't know what you're doing, please don't. Get a hold of somebody that does know what they're doing. And that's the whole thing of, we have an entire different program set up on suspected unapproved parts, subs. And anything is suspected unapproved. This pin is suspected unapproved until I see an approval data or some type of a formal record. Oh, this does meet a standard. And that's the whole thing. The standards. The bolt that you mentioned at Home Depot, it don't meet the standards that we require for aviation use. So it's just all about the standards, and that kind of segues right into your next topic.
Sure. We, not only on the operational side, but on the maintenance side, we're emphasizing the development and the promotion of the safety culture, whether at the individual level or in a group setting. We believe that when you're dealing with a safety culture, 2 + 2 = 5. When you have people that are like-minded and are able to think ahead of problems, especially procedural or technical issues, and they have a safety culture that addresses the problems. Some of them are foreseen, some of them are unforeseen. The safety culture is a wonderful philosophy to help prevent accidents and problems from developing and cascading into failures and, God forbid, into accidents and incidents. So safety culture is a big thing for the General Aviation Joint Safety Committee. I also want to mention a little bit more about safety culture at the very end of our slides. We've got a message from an industry leader that I want to bring to the audience's attention. We'll move on from that, but safety culture is an important topic for accident prevention, and it appears not only on the topics of the month, but it also appears on the airworthiness topics of the quarter for fiscal 25. Very important philosophical concept. In the summer, we're going to shift gears and emphasize the approval for return to service. We also saw this topic on the operational side as well. We want to make sure that it's covered on both the operational and airworthiness sides of the house, a more airworthiness bent to the points for the third quarter of fiscal 25 for the airworthiness people. So that's a wonderful topic. There's that looks like Rosie the Riveter and her sister there in the factory putting aircraft together, maybe in the 40s or the 50s. Kind of a neat old vintage picture.
Approval for return to service is probably a term that has been abused and misused so many times. And it sounds good, it sounds trendy, but who actually returns the aircraft to service?
It's
Bob?
an interesting question, and it really is the pilot in command who takes the aircraft up out of the hangar on that first flight after it comes out with the signature for approval for return to service. That basically opens the door to the very next flight, and the PIC, pilot in command, on that next flight is the person who returns the aircraft to service. It's an important operational responsibility that crosses the lines between operational and maintenance, and that is why we invite the mechanics to attend the operational presentations, and we invite the pilots to attend the airworthiness presentations to have a much better foundational understanding of what the other side of their business is doing. Some people are working both sides of the fence, like you, Benji. You've been working the airworthiness side and the operational side for many years, but many folks, especially those in rapid training situations like some of our pilot schools, they only get the one side or the other. They have to reach out actively and look for the other side. And we're offering that through these National Performance Plan Topics of the Month and Airworthiness Topics of the Quarter. Please take advantage of these. Most of them are free, by the way. Doesn't cost you anything but your time.
No charge.
To show up. Many of them are done as webinars or remote learning. Many of them are done as seminars, and you can't knock the advantage of people in the company of other people. The things that people ask one another, the conversations, the sidebars, the just hobnobbing with your peers has a wonderful leverage within that positive safety culture. So we encourage either method to do it.
Bob, I noticed you have a prop over there.
I do. Are you ready to see it? I'm going to flash it to you guys, and I'm going to show you a little bit more later. This is the November issue, so it's only a couple of weeks old. The November issue of the EAA magazine called Sport Aviation. If you're a member of EAA, you're probably getting this magazine. There is a wonderful editorial right inside here on page 1. I'll flash it to you now, and we'll talk about it in the next couple of minutes. All right, I'm going to just close it up at that point, and we'll jump back into it in just a moment. That is the President's editorial, and it's a wonderful message supporting everything that we're talking about today.
Excellent. It's a safety record, and we are doing better. We're on track to having a good year.
A very good year, one for the record books.
But, I mean, in my time, we've gone from 0 accidents to all sorts of buzzwords about, that is the goal, of course, is not have anybody hurt, spill one drop of blood, or bend one aircraft, period, whatever aircraft you're in, helo or unmanned or otherwise. But it's a goal. It's a little bit lofty, but the human element is a very, very weak link in that element. But we're involved, and we got to stay involved.
We aim for the bullseye. Many times we don't hit it, but it is a good thing to aim for it all the time. Within that target, we have obviously the bullseye, but we also have some rings, concentric rings around it, and those are our standards. And the standards that we set for ourselves should be the smallest circle around the bullseye.
And I know some people that I'm going to be turning in for some awards because they have their eye on the target, and they help people stay focused on that target.
We enforce that positive safety culture by recognizing the achievers and the contributors who help make that a reality. It's not just something that exists on the pages of a book. A positive safety culture is an important way to operate as an individual or as a group. One awesome way to award the people who are the movers and shakers in that positive safety culture is to recognize people through an award system. And one of the most important awards programs that the FAA has are these competitive awards known as the General Aviation Safety Awards. Each year, the FAA recognizes industry leaders who are leading in 3 areas of discipline. One is the Flight Instructor of the Year, and we have many Flight Instructors of the Year right within our midst within the Florida Aviation Network. We mentioned Bob Jex, who is the reigning CFI of the Year. We also have Ron Timmermans in the audience, who is not only a National Flight Instructor of the Year, the very next year he was inducted into the Instructors Hall of Fame. So I'm honored to be within 10 feet of these people. They are amazing, and there are many more who are able to help exemplify that positive safety culture. That's on the operational side. There's an FAA award called Flight Instructor of the Year. We also have an FAA award for the Aviation Technician of the Year, the AMT of the Year. And these are also competitive awards. The third category is for Fast Team Representative of the Year. That is one that occurs within the Fast Team. You know, Fast Team runs on volunteers, just like Oshkosh does, just like Lakeland at Sun and Fun. The whole thing runs on volunteers. Fast Team is no different. Florida Aviation Network is no different. Fast Team needs volunteers, and there are some tremendous leaders within each FSDO who are able to bring forward and advance the safety message and the accident prevention message. And we honor them and their contributions to the positive safety culture with a national award called the Fast Team Representative of the Year. There is a perpetual calendar. We are in the midst of that calendar right now for the 2025 award cycle. We've just concluded the acceptance of new award packages, and now the process shifts over to the FSDOs for selections at the FSDO level. Once the FSDOs, my successors at the Orlando FSDO are Randy Burke and Javier Calderon. They will be selecting the three categories, the winners, for Flight Instructor of the Year, Aviation Technician of the Year, and Fast Team Representative of the Year, and moving those nominations up their chain of command for hopefully ultimate selection by the National Committee. The national winners are brought to Oshkosh, to AirVenture, to be treated like royalty and to be nationally recognized by the FAA administrator at a special awards ceremony at Oshkosh. It's pretty cool stuff.
Well, I'll tell you then, Bob, what is the WIFM in all of this? Throw that at you, Bob, John Carter. The WIFM, it's an acronym.
I'm having trouble with the word WIFM.
I got you.
Is that in the pilot controller glossary?
Absolutely
Okay.
not. What's in it for me? I mean, we ask people to come and volunteer, and we really appreciate them volunteering, but what's the WIFM? What's in it for me if I'm a volunteer?
For one thing, just being a volunteer on any of these aviation safety organizations is fulfilling within itself. It looks good to your peers that you are actively supporting the active efforts of aviation safety and accident prevention outreach endeavors. To be a leader in your group and to be nominated for an award such as Flight Instructor of the Year, just to be nominated for CFI of the Year. These are competitive awards. Many apply, but only one wins at each level. Just to be nominated amongst your peers as a leader and one of the outstanding members of that demographic, that community, looks good on your resume. If you're nominated for one of these awards, you could put that on your resume. You can say, if you're looking for an aviation job, hey, I was nominated for Flight Instructor of the Year within the Orlando FSDO, for the 2024-2025 awards cycle. There are other things that a person can do to enhance their visibility in a competitive awards process or a competitive hiring process, as airline hiring often is. There are things you can do to elevate your standing amongst your peers without pushing down any of your peers. There are things, and if you want to, give me a call and we'll talk about some of that stuff. But the important thing is to help foster what the team is doing. Is the team trying to operate more safely? Yes. Are you leading efforts to help that? If you are, then you're possibly a candidate for one of these competitive awards. Flight Instructor of the Year, Aviation Technician, or Fast Team Representative of the Year.
And I'm telling you, even the interns that we have a number of interns. Actually, shooting all these shots from our cameras are interns. They're learning something and they don't even know it. They may not be here to actually learn something, Riley, Kenda, but they're learning something and they're going to pick it up. And hopefully, if we can hit that spark with a volunteer that has an interest, they come in to want to be a part of the group, and Obi Young, the team leader here, if you will, takes them under his wing. They're set, but now they've got to perform. You can't fire a volunteer, but you can uninvite them. And Obi's wonderful at, he will set the stage. His demands are high, but you will learn something if you hang around Obi Young. Ask Obi too, because he's actually doing the technical directing today. There's just so much in this WIFM, and I'm sorry to throw you under the bus there, Bob, with that term, but we have got to really understand why more people aren't getting involved, because we're talking to a mere sliver of the population. The folks watching this that are really into it is just it's a grain of sand on the big beach. of people that are really interested.
It's important to get people who are in a shell, to get them out of their shell and into some of these programs. This is a wonderful way to get a start in an aviation career, and who knows where it would lead. We work with the FAST team volunteers. We work with people who want to present this material. We're very happy to do it. You may see on screen here some tips for the planners and the presenters. I don't need to read all that, but it's important to basically be in communications with your people, your teams, your audiences. And one of my biggest regrets in presenting a FAST team or any safety seminar is an empty seat anywhere in the room. If you see empty seats, you have a challenge. Invite somebody who needs to be in that seat. And you know what? You bring somebody to one of these presentations and they will say, thanks for inviting me. I learned more in that presentation than I expected to learn. And I learned a few things that I didn't expect to learn. In the Flight Instructor's Handbook, that's called incidental learning. You go to learn A, B, and C, but along the way you learn D, E, and F. That's called incidental learning, the D, E, and F part. It's a wonderful part of what we do as volunteers and as organizations of teams doing volunteer service, such as the Florida Aviation Network and the FAST teams.
It all adds to the safety culture. And with a strong safety culture, you're going to have a safe operation.
I want to spend another couple of minutes talking about something I've been sort of teasing for the last several minutes.
You got 45 seconds.
I got 45 seconds to show you. This is the editorial page inside on page 1 of a very recent issue of Sport Aviation. Jack Pelton is the president of EAA. His organization, EAA, is a co-chair of the GAJSC, which we've been talking about for the last several minutes. He presented some very good news, and it's part of EAA's support for the safety culture that we've been talking about within the context of the GAJSC. For the fiscal year that ended on September 30th, the EAA is very proud to report, and I'm very proud to pass it on, that they have experienced their lowest ever level of fatal accidents in the home-built category, a very high-risk category. They are making strides, and I'm very happy to relay Mr. Pelton's message to this audience.
And all of our chapters out there, EAA chapters, good for you, and thank you for what you're doing, and thank everyone that's contributing to this movement. And another contribution, have you ever wondered about the weather?
Wondered about it.
Dr. George Bartuska is going to be on here on the segment 3, and I purposely try not to learn anything when Dr. Bartuska is talking, and it's still every damn time I wind up learning something. So this time I'm not going to learn something in segment 3. I'm not. Now watch him prove me wrong. Now, and we're also going to have at the end of the presentations that code, that all familiar 4-digit code. And please pay attention to the code and pay attention to yourself. Situational awareness is another key phrase in aviation and for in the aeronautical industry in general. So we'll see you next interview and look for that code. I'm Ben Coleman, your host for Florida Aviation Network. See you.